Okay, so in the overview tab, you're going to enter your year up here for the year that you're going to be budgeting for, and that's the only thing you have to edit in this tab. This is just a summary page where you can come back after you start using your spreadsheet or your budget system, and you can just see an overview of all the different categories. On the right, you're going to start seeing a year breakdown once you start using the spreadsheet. And then towards the bottom, you're actually going to see a graph that's going to divide up expenses, debt paid off, and also savings. Next, you're going to go to the base budget tab. This is a tab that is going to fill out all of the information for all of the months for the rest of the year. Now, we totally understand that your budget changes month to month, and we get that. So this is just your basic minimum base budget, and that's what this page is. So if you vary in income, if it's not a set amount, take the very minimum that you know you're going to have coming in. That's what you're going to budget with, and then this will allow you later on each month before you budget for that month. It's going to be super quick for you. So go ahead and put in today's date here. And if you're starting mid-year for this spreadsheet, that's fine. Just go ahead and put that date in. And let's say we have $1,000 for paychecks that month. Now I'm going to go through and put in some sample amounts, but I'm just going to kind of review really quickly what your categories are here. So you have your monthly bills and your monthly expenses. Now your bills are not your debts. So if you have a credit card, if you have an auto loan, student loans, anything like that, you're going to put those into debts down here on the bottom right. So the monthly bills are what you're going to be paying for even after you pay off all your debts if you haven't done so already. So that's what this is. So you're probably going to do like a utility bill, and maybe a cable bill, and the numbers, what I'm putting in, are the due dates. So I'm just putting them in by order of due dates. And then we have our monthly expenses, and I highly, highly recommend putting in a fun money budget for each of you or whoever you're budgeting for. Even if you're budgeting for yourself, I recommend doing a fun money because then it allows you to have some money to do whatever you want with, and then everything else is assigned, and it kind of gives you that permission to spend where you want, and you just know where your money's going. It's super handy, and you're very careful about where you're spending your money if you know it's limited to a certain amount. And then you can put in any giving or birthday gifts, anything like that, any charities in the giving section. And then in the debts, this is where you're going to list them, not by due date. You can if you choose to. I recommend doing it smallest to largest balance, not minimum payment, but balance. So let's say you have $5,000 on this one, and let's say you have $11,000 on this one. If you've already been tracking your debt, oops, I already left that in there. So if you've already been tracking your debt payoff, you would put it in right here. If you haven't been tracking it, just go ahead and leave it blank. It's just going to allow you to continue seeing that big payoff debt or payoff amount. Any random bills, subscriptions, and expenses can be put down here. The purpose of these lines is basically so that when you're going throughout your year, nothing pops up that you had forgotten about, and all of a sudden you didn't plan for it, or you don't have the money to cover it, or it just messes up your budget, all that kind of stuff. We want to avoid that, so having it front and center so that you're prepared for it when the time comes just is super helpful. So it doesn't have lines for amounts, it's just listing them to keep them in the back of your mind. And then down below you have ideas, just to make sure you're not forgetting anything. Obviously this doesn't encompass everything, but just to give you some ideas. So run through those to see if you are missing anything at all. Next, we're going to just plug in some numbers for us. Once we have everything in that we know we want to spend money on, and again, like I said, this is just your very base budget. So I tend to budget a little bit low for the income, and I budget just a tad high for the bills if they're not exact. because then I know I'm not going to be short money somewhere, and anything extra is just that. It's extra, and I can assign it where it needs to go at that point. So I'm just going to continue putting in numbers for examples. And the thing is about budgets is everything is custom to what works best for you. What other people spend on their budget is not a big deal. You do not have to worry about it. You have to focus on what works best for you and leave it at that. If you need help and somebody can offer some help or advice, great, but you have to, at the end of the day, do what works best for your budget. I highly, highly, highly recommend following Dave Ramsey's program. It's amazing, and that's actually how we started basing all of this, and we kind of just built our spreadsheet. So this is actually the spreadsheet that my husband and I use personally, and we built it based off of his program because it just worked so well for us. So I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out already. Once we have put in all of our amounts, then we're going to go back over to the summary and see where we're at. So in some cases, the amount left to budget may be negative. And if that's the case, you need to go back in and see where you need to tweak. Maybe your groceries need to be cut. Maybe you need a lower dates and social life, or no dates and social life until you can get some stuff paid off or some income up. Things like that. And then you can just kind of tweak it so you know exactly what you are going to be doing each month and where your base budget is. So for now, we still have $792 left. Now, let's say we put $795, and down here is the sinking and savings funds. So right now, it looks like we have, okay, we're going to put that $795 in first. And then we're going to have short $3. So now we know we have to tweak it because it queued us. And now we're at that zero-based budget. So that's what we want to get back down to. And then now we know that we're going to have $792 to put towards sinking or savings funds. Or, now this is the case too, is if you are following Dave Ramsey's plan and you're on baby step 1 for $1,000, you're going to put this into that emergency fund, that step 1 emergency fund. If you are paying off debt, this is where you can actually reallocate these funds into paying off debt. So we can kind of talk about that a little bit more once we get into the actual monthly budget tabs, but that is where we're going to put it for now. So this is something that you want to kind of take some time with, really review it, and make sure that you've really given thought to everything that you think you could possibly spend each month, and break it down to your true base budget, because you can edit it later, but just taking the time to do this is going to save you so much time in the long run and a lot of headache in the long run, and also help you reach your money goals.